Welcome back to the pod. Y'all are just joining y'all's two favorite people on the internet. It is everybody's favorite Uncle Don Don, yours truly. Joined by my virtual half, my moisturized and melanated brother over there, Qualls, aka.
Mr. Qualified, how y'all doing? Appreciate that, brother. Gotta be moisturized and melanated. Love that. Great combination. Combination.
Screaming.
But no, what is going on with you, man? What's happening? What's going on?
Too much, everything. I'm stressed out. I'm here, but I I didn't have anything else to give, so I ripped my sleeves off my shirt. No, I'm lying. This is this came like this. But no, yeah, I'm stressed out. For reasons that we don't have to get into details. I already told you off camera. Just know that my favorite holiday is coming up very soon. And Murphy's Law is in full effect. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong, and things are going wrong. So I'm just trying to, keep it moving.
I I feel that that is never a fun time. It's been a I think I would have felt that way about this week if not for, as I've been calling it, like being in this flow state that it's felt like for really the last month. I feel like I've been saying it, but July has been very good to me. And not that it's been like just overly like all these things have been happening. It's just been a really good progression of being comfortable, being acceptive, of things. So I just feel like I keep getting hit with things and it's like, y'all can bounce off. It's cool. That hurt a little bit, but boomerang, come back. But the hardest part was, so my car got towed this week.
Code.
Towed. So
You parked somewhere you wasn't supposed to, you ain't paid no tickets.
the former. So they're doing construction downtown. They're uh putting asphalt on all, like they're redoing all the streets. So
Mhm.
they have it to where you're not supposed to park between 5 p.m. and 7 a.m. I get home from the gym, I pull up, I'm parking, it's like 8 o'clock. So I'm like, and it's cars parked on the street. So I'm just like, they not gonna get to this street today, not tonight. Which was dumb of me because one, I saw them working a couple blocks down, and I should have figured that they probably was gonna keep it moving and keep it pushing because it ends tomorrow. Like it ends on the 4th, right? So I'm like, they probably was gonna be working their way here anyway. But here I am just thinking, I'm rushing. I was trying to get on the call. It's just I just went with the first spot I could find, muscle memory, right? Okay. Go in the house, have my evening, you know what I'm saying? I come out the next morning, chipper even, so to say, ready to go to work. Lord have mercy. And I turned that corner, I swerved a bit in that corner, and my car was nowhere to be found. And you just had that immediate, just like look of like, I knew what happened. Like I was like, got told. Damn it. And so it was just tough because, of course, now you're trying to figure out where they towed it to. I'm thinking it was one place, it wasn't there. Luckily, they told me it was likely another place. It was there. Now, to be clear, I knew I was gonna have to pay a decent little penny for this tow. I was prepared for that. The number that nice lady told me initially, something's wrong with this country, man. Something's wrong with this country. I don't understand what's going on. I don't even want to say. I'll say the number. It's okay. The original price was 342 for the tow that was less than 12 hours. Mind you, they
In Colombia?
in Colombia, they towed the car at 10:15, right? They towed this car at 10:15. I pick it up at 8:30. I'm already been charged for a day. I take that one on the chin and get charged for a day when it get processed, whatever. They was trying to charge me for a second day. Don't know how. You only had it 12 hours. The thing that blew me the most was the biggest charge was for the police call out. Why are you calling the police to tow the car? Just tow the car. Why are we dealing with the popo? Now I ain't scared of no popo, but why we dealing with the popo? What we doing this for? So that honestly, I think the saving grace was it was payday. So there was absolutely no doubt that I could take care of this and be cool. So that may have been the reason why I was like, we move. Okay, take this on the chin, keep it pushing. But I say all that to say that in another life, potentially like 2 or 3 months ago, something like this had happened. I would have crashed out. I would have had a mental breakdown. But the way things have been going, I just been in a much better headspace. So having something inconvenient and unfortunate happen, but just being in a position to be able to bounce back and just kind of get it out the way, it's a good way to live. So I'll take that, and I'll appreciate the blessing that is. But yeah, it's still been a week. Still been some trials and tribulations for sure.
And you know what? You survived. Okay, so you survived. You made a poor decision.
I did.
You had to lay in the bed that you made,
Yes,
and it was that. But that is exhibit A. Why I'm so tired of being an adult. I'm
literally.
so tired of being an adult. I don't want the universe to hear me say that and take me out. Like I want breath in my body for a very long time coming, right? But I just miss not having these responsibilities and woes and just being a kid. And I just want to be a child. I want to be kept. I want to be fed. I want to be told where to go and make it happen.
We all deserve a soft life. You know what I'm saying? And I think I think we've earned that at this point. I think Rita stole the show once again. I was calling her, letting her know what happened. And so she was like, "Oh, you had a." She was like, "That's a bought lesson." I said, "Now, Mom, I'm usually up to date with your sayings, but I think this is a new one for me. What's a bought lesson exactly?" I was like, is it because I had to pay? She was like, yeah, that lesson cost you something. You ain't gonna
Oh,
get that
okay.
lesson. I said, you know what? Mind you, all the people I told after that were like, "Oh, I'm keeping that one." I said,
Yep, it's in
"Yeah."
my pocket.
I'm like, that's a good one. I'm like, yeah, Rita, you done did it again, girl. I'll tell you. Yeah, everybody's so proud, and now they're gonna be talking about bought lessons. But but
Well,
yeah,
I want returned lessons. I need my money back.
can you learn enough to get your money back on the lesson? Like if I get a redemption chance and I excel at it, can I get that return?
Yeah, is there a rebate somewhere around? Like, I don't, learning costs too much.
It truly does. Like this is a literal thing. But man, we are getting into something very, very interesting today. Again, I feel like these are things that we talk about, but I feel like we've been trying to hone in on specific topics to have very specific conversations. But I don't think we've talked about this aspect of things specifically, but the idea of the inner child. And this is extremely layered. But what inspired this topic for me was a clip that me and Donald watched before recording. But it's a clip from Egg and Grits and Eggs, one of those,
Grits and eggs.
the Good Breakfast podcast. Sorry, the Grits and Eggs podcast. But Duran Bernard was a guest on this particular episode, and they were talking about the inner child and how the more you trying to figure out how you phrase it. But basically, like the more you understand, the older you get, and the more you kind of understand your inner child, and you start treating that child like it was your own child, like you get a completely different perspective on some of the things that you've dealt with, some of the healing you might have to do, some of the growing that you have to do, or have done, or have experienced. And I don't know if we've really like dug into that for us, but I guess kind of to start, do you feel like you have a definition of what like the inner child actually is, especially as an adult?
No, I
Yeah,
think
I
my
never defined it.
yeah, no, because I think my inner child is mine um outward adult. Is that the opposite? I
That's interesting. That's
I'm
interesting.
a big ass kid. Like I don't take too much too serious. Um I like to enjoy life and keep it as light and fluid as possible. I say that understanding that I still have adult responsibilities and like a home to pay for. But I don't know, my inner child is just I don't know, it's a little seed inside that I try to water and make sure is doing something and getting some sunlight, and I don't know. I guess I am the personification of my inner child, if I'm being honest.
No, that's real. And I definitely agree with that for you. I think mine's is a little bit different because I feel like I've definitely sheltered mine. I've definitely like put mine behind me and just like I'm gonna just tuck you away. Like I don't want you to have to deal with anything, past, what you've dealt with kind of like as a child. But kind of to the point in the clip, I think that like putting that child away or trying to hide that inner child. And I think it's more about the emotion, it's more internal than it is, kind of the literal difference in child and adult or the literal difference in feelings then versus feelings now. I think it's more so, well, I think we've experienced a lot as kids that you don't really understand in that time. And depending on how you dealt with it then and how much work you've done as an adult, some of it you've never dealt with. So there's still this like person inside you that, is scared or fears this particular thing because you never addressed it. And a lot of people think just naturally getting older, addresses it or, going through life, it naturally gets addressed. And some of those things, they don't like they can whether it's hidden intentionally or subconsciously, like it's not common that things are dealt with without intention. And I think that's the biggest thing that I feel like I've kind of learned as an adult. But I've definitely put my inner child away because my inner child is still definitely scarred by a few different things, some more monumental than others, but still a lot of scar in there for sure.
And that's a valid point. I feel like the inner child conversation comes with some like fragility that you would navigate. But I just realized I had a hard time answering what my inner child was because I don't think I have one. I have an inner teenager.
Okay.
I don't have an inner child because I mean there's a wide-eyed innocence, to kids and things like that that I don't think that I have. I was actually talking to Alice the other day. We both had some adult woes, and she said something, and I was like, I don't have the capacity to wonder. Like the imaginative lifestyle of a child, I don't have because it's still heavy on the practicality.
Mhm.
But I feel like that's where the inner teenager comes in because it's like you almost want that wide-eyed innocence, but you want some like direction and responsibility or something. So I don't think I have an inner child. I mean, my actual child from back in the day, I mean, not my child. Me being a child from back in the day, I mean, yeah, it had some bumps and bruises and some trauma and some hurt and some disappointment and things like that. But I feel like I either got past that or pushed it back or did whatever to where I feel like my life started in my teenage years, even at like 13. So I got an inner teenager. Shout out to everybody that's got an inner child, but he ain't with me no more.
No, I mean that's super real though. And I feel like everybody's experience is different. So it may not be an inner child, right? Like there might be a lot of people with inner teenagers. And I think that's the same interesting dynamic. Really, it just kind of depends on what you went through, when you went through it, and how you dealt with it. But if you feel like you had an inner teenager, then have you had moments as an adult where something happens and maybe it's not triggered per se, but you get this feeling or you have this reaction to it? And do you feel like that's all in the moment, or have you had situations where you feel like you're reacting to things based off of something from the past? And maybe it's not that far back, so maybe it's not the teenager or child part, but I'm wondering if there have been any correlation there in terms of if you've reacted to things that are kind of more deeply rooted than just something being in the moment.
Yeah, I mean, the short answer is yes. I think when people don't stick to their word, that just grinds my gears in the worst ways because that's what I grew up with, right? So like that child that was told, yeah, we're gonna go on a Disney vacation, and you like, okay, cool. Like I didn't put too much stock into it, but I was being told something that then some time passed and I realized did not happen. And this is specifically my daddy. But so to be told something and to not stick to your word, that just does something to me. So when I'm talking to people now as a 35-year-old adult and they do something different than what was stated or what was agreed upon, I'm like, I don't like this. Why? Oh, that's why I don't like this because this happened back then and that's kind of always happened. I've like healed obviously since those things, but it does take me back to that. Like, why did I have an issue with that? Because communication, it could be so simple. Like, if you keep your word, like that could be so simple. So, I don't know. I think. It has probably shaped me because now I don't listen to people. I don't listen to what they say. I've always listened to what they don't say. I'm reading in between the lines of what you're saying because I don't want to say it's some like innate thing that I do now, but it's easier for me to assume that you align. And that's even with people I trust. And even when I was teaching, my students love them down. Almost all of them, like 99.99% of them, right? But I knew at some point they would lie. You're gonna lie about being late to class, you're gonna lie about turning an assignment, you're gonna throw somebody under the bus. So like I'm preemptively looking for those things. And that is because, little Don Don was essentially lied to. So
Nah, that's super real. I think what lying and people not doing what they said they're gonna do for you is the same, but not so much in lying, but abandonment. So for me, when I feel like people said they were gonna do something or said they were gonna show up or be this presence and they weren't, or they aren't, that's for me the trigger of like, wait, like why'd you say you could do this if you can't? Or why'd you say you would be here if you don't want to or if you can't? Because that's what I experienced growing up. Like in the same way, like getting this idea of like, oh, we gonna do this, or oh yeah, I'll show up here, or oh yeah, like this is how I feel, but not getting that from the actions. And so I think because I now know how the relationship with the person that kind of did that when I was a child, how that has translated to my intimate relationships and even my friendships as an adult. I know where it comes from now, so it's easy to identify, but I think that child is still there in me sometimes, kind of. And I think it's weird because I feel relatively healed as an adult, but in a weird way, the child still doesn't feel healed. But
hmm.
can they be at this point? Like, what exactly heals the inner child? Because as an adult, like I'm not that child, and I'm facing the world and taking on the world like from a different lens. So the healing has been in that capacity. And some of those things subconsciously might heal the child. But when I think of kind of like what the child went through, if I'm separating the child and the adult, of myself, maybe the reward is being healed as an adult. But I think in the terms of this conversation, I think about how difficult it was for that child because they never really got that. Like the adult me got it. And I guess within that, like I said, maybe it comes down to the child a little bit. But as somebody who's thought about this more and really does feel like my inner child is kind of like this separate entity to a degree.
Yeah. That's real, right? So the everything that happened to us in the past informs who we are in the present, but it does not dictate who we will be in the future.
Mm,
At least it shouldn't.
right.
You can still kind of move on and heal from it, but at the end of the day, everything that happened to you in the past, it still informs who you are and how you navigate now. You just now have to figure out how much of this am I going to let dictate who I'm going to be in the future. So that inner child is always going to be there, or those past experiences will always be there. It's just about how much energy and capacity you allow your brain to use on that and maybe like stop you from something, you know? So
That's real.
it's a muscle that's got to be exercised, but that's trauma. And trauma doesn't have to be like this huge thing, this, this big negative thing, and you was just like beat and punched in the face all the time, right? Like that is also traumatic, but you can have experiences that you deem traumatic that have had these larger or like more impactful, sometimes negative experiences in your life, and they will always be in the back of your mind as they resurface.
Yeah. No, and I think that's a really good point for people to remember that you brought up is that trauma or even triggers for that matter are not always massive. They're not always these bombs of like it's just very, very clear what this is about. Like when you said it, sometimes I thought about how like in a boxing match, it's not always the knockout, that can take, a fighter out. Like sometimes you get tired because you've been getting jabbed, for 6, 7 rounds and it's taking a toll. So sometimes trauma and triggers, like it's just jabs, like quick little jabs that you can't stop them. But the more you keep taking these jabs, the more the wound, starts to, be created or reopened in this case. So I think that's really important for people to remember. And I think this idea, not this idea, but like the concept and the truth that childhood experiences really shape, like who we are in our adult life and the patterns of our adult life. Like you said, it's a muscle. Like that's not something that we can ignore because at that point, you just kind of raw dog in life. And I mean, if that's what you want to do, cool. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? But I don't think, just like in any case, I don't think raw dogging is the safest option in any capacity, how you want to look at it. But just saying, just to put it in perspective. But do you feel like there's a childhood experience that you've seen really, really shape like your adult perspective or adult like patterns that you've noticed within yourself?
100%. Yeah. My relationship, as we have talked about this before, but my relationship and lack thereof with my daddy, he was very much present up until, I don't know, freshman, that break between freshman and sophomore year of high school. But you know what? The reason all of these things come in, because you see as a kid, like you're just trying to make sense of the world and experience it. You might not have language behind what's going on. You might not really understand what's going on, but you are seeing and experiencing things and you know how you feel about them. So like when we talk about character development, kids are experiencing character development without knowing what that actually is. I say all that to say, I was seeing how he was moving and shaking, and something for whatever reason was not lining up for me. And
Mm.
I was just like, hmm, what is this? Why did you do this? Why would you treat somebody like this? And it's just a series of why in my head. And then as I got older, I was just like, oh, this one ain't like that. Okay, well, this is different than how I would move. I don't really like that. Which is why I said my inner teenager, because when I was like 12, maybe 13, obviously being a teenager, but like 12, 13. I think my people was on the cusp of like a split. But I remember my mama asked me one day, we was in the dining room, and she was just like, I have a question. She's like, how would you feel if your daddy wasn't around? And I was just like, I wouldn't feel away at all. Like I would almost prefer him not to be. And the way I tell the story and what makes me sleep good at night is I was the final straw that allowed my mama to separate. Because I think as a parent, like you want to stay together for the kids, the family, or whatever, but respectfully, like, fuck that. You are an individual. Like you have to do something that makes sense for you. And if everything else falters, like that's just a byproduct, and you as an adult have to pick up the pieces. But she wanted to, make sure that the situation was good. But once I told her, I was like, nah, you can go. I feel like that's when he left. It wasn't like the next hour she was like, "Hey, pack up," But it after that, it was just like he wasn't around. So I feel like that was when I made a decision that kind of impacted the rest of my life.
Mm.
That's when I felt like I was in control, which is why the child part of me doesn't exist because I feel like I started at 13. But I think that and everything that spun around thereafter answers your question. Um, that was probably the first major thing.
That's real. Yeah. It's funny. I feel like we've like spoke about this like in pieces, but the similarities in our relationships with our fathers, because for me, a lot of those things that I mean, my relationship with him and my view of him has shaped almost everything of who I am today. And I think the main difference was early on, like into high school, into college, it was like in spite of, like almost like to be in direct opposition. That was the driving force. And then reaching a point where I realized kind of how like problematic or negative that was, at least for like my personal growth. I got to a point where I could appreciate the good and bad and still make that distinction without making him kind of like, an opponent, in a sense. But I just think I witnessed a lot, and I think I witnessed a lot not only individually but kind of from a distance with others as well. Like if I look at all my siblings and their relationship with him, like you know, with me and Leah specifically, like Leah's the youngest and Leah's the only girl. So also me growing up with Leah, there was a different protectiveness of that in her relationship with her. So not only is it my own thing, but like now this is also happening to my little sister, and she's a girl who really wants this connection and relationship with her father, and it's like she don't like that is also shaping her view of the world and of a gender. I had no business throwing that on my shoulders myself, because these were not the shoulders I had as a child, just to be clear. uh but but man, like it's just you subconscious. And another thing with that too, another layer of this, love read it down. Y'all know this, but one thing that not that I'm mad that she did, but because of her, raising me as a single mother for the most part, she, I was the man of the house in her eyes. And that is the realm in which she raised me in, which also kind of created this dynamic of me feeling like she wanted me to be not more than what I was, but like just take on responsibility sooner than, with me looking back at it, sooner than I maybe should have had to. I'm grateful for it because like that's my life, that's my experience, and it's been more positive than negative in any capacity. But just the small things you kind of realize to piece two and two together of how you got here and why you see things the way you do, why you take responsibility of things, in the way that you do it, for speaking for myself. But yeah, it's just all in all, like you kind of said, between how it all connects and understanding triggers and traumas and how to respond to them, it's a never ending, process. But I think that's also why it's important to be mindful and be aware of that inner child or inner teenager, because it can always creep up. And sometimes there are new things. Like it's not you think you kind of know everything, but sometimes something new pops up, and it's like you just want to be aware of things you may have experienced, so when it's time for you to navigate them as an adult, you kind of know what you need to go back to or know what you need to address so it can be as seamless as possible, even in the, most woeful season you might be having. So yeah.
What is the if you had to say what would be like a positive trait that you have carried over from your inner child or inner teenager? As you was talking, I thought of one or two for me, but now I'm like, I wonder what's a positive trait on your side.
Uh, that I carried. I think I've always appreciated my curiosity and my desire for understanding. Like as a child, part of it is you're part of it is just like this naiveness of not realizing just how expansive things are. So when you're kind of asking why, you're just asking to ask. But I think I've carried that curiosity. I've always wanted to understand. I've always wanted to know the why. I've always wanted to get why things are happening, why this person did this, why it's okay, why it's not okay. Like I've always wanted to have that knowledge. So I think being able to carry that healthily into adulthood is a is something that I'm proud of and I feel like is a positive thing that carried because I feel like it also allowed me to it helped me keep a balance of being optimistic. Like
Hmm.
I can as much as I want to understand, I also had to learn that there are some things that I may not understand, and that is also okay. And that allows me to not think that everything is negative just because I don't get it or just because it doesn't make sense to me. So that's probably the biggest one that stands out. Yeah, what was a couple that you thought about?
Um, well, if I could say positively, it would be my strategic nature of thinking.
Okay.
The negative side of that is that I can lie my ass off. I can lie my ass off, but I realized that I wasn't lying maliciously, or I didn't feel that I was lying maliciously and trying to be sneaky, but I knew at the time it wasn't worth the conflict.
Mm.
If I were to tell the truth, because you can't handle the truth, right? That's how I felt. Like I really want to speak my mind, but I was always told to stay in a child's place. This is the shit that, excuse me, this what you got mad.
Trigger.
This what used to make me mad, right? My daddy would say like, speak up, speak up, speak your mind, speak your mind. And then I would finally speak my mind and say something. It would be less than desirable for what he liked to hear. And he said, I'll stay in a child's place. But which one is it? Do you want me to speak up or do you want me to stay in a child's place? Because clearly I can do both. So I just started lying. My inner child was taught to lie, to navigate situations for my benefit or to avoid conflict. Not because I was afraid of conflict, but because the other person wasn't ready for it. So now I'm direct. Even the other day, somebody, I think my mama told me, it was like, you're just so strict and stern. Because I don't have time for the bullshit. Say what you're saying. Do we have an issue? Yes. Do we have an issue? No. All right, then we go whichever way we're going. So now I'm gonna bring the problem to you because I'm not about to sit on it. But oh, I would lie my ass off.
Look, it gotta be strict around here, mama. It gotta be, and I mean, like, and that's respectfully, all the way around. But I mean, you gotta be strict about yourself, because most people, you got a support system. You got some people that's strict about you, and we appreciate those people. But you gotta be the main advocate, which is a great segue into the self-advocacy piece of this as well, because with like navigating, everything that we've been talking about, and even to what you were just saying, it's this idea that once you get to a place where, like you said, you can really start to understand and just kind of accept how you've gotten to be, how you are. Being strict is just, one, like setting the boundaries and not in a manipulative way, but setting your boundaries. But two, just understanding the standard that you set, for yourself. Uh, AI, we'll call it reparenting. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if you necessarily agree with the term or not. But I think within self-advocacy and this idea of having, well, I agree with it because I think a lot of people have to reparent themselves in a way. Like we're unlearning things and teaching ourselves new things. But uh I think we talked about the advocacy piece before, but in context of this conversation, how do you feel like you got to a space where you were able to advocate for, like your inner teenager in a sense, like even as an adult? And what do you feel like that looks like for you now?
How do I advocate for teenage me?
Yeah, or even how do you advocate for yourself now? But do you feel like there's a correlation from maybe how you either learned how to do it, as a teenager, and does that look the exact same now? But I guess I'm thinking about um you just speaking to being so strict about things now versus maybe you restrict then, but it was more of a finesse, more of a for the sake of other people. Whereas
Mhm.
now it kind of feels like it ain't like we gonna talk about this or we not. Like this a thing or it ain't. Like I ain't necessarily tiptoeing or, trying to make it nice for you kind of deal. That's at least how I interpreted what you said.
Um, I feel like I give myself permission to be authentic. Well, I just give myself permission, period. And in that permissible state is authentic Donald. But yeah, I just give myself permission to do whatever I want. I feel like as kids, and this is just the nature of a child, like you have to ask for permission or ask for guidance or ask for the green light. Who am I asking? I'm asking me now, you know? So nah. You talk about for those that go to college and off into young adulthood and say like, oh, now you out in the world. 6 months ago, or 6 months prior to that, you were raising your hand to ask if you could go to the bathroom. And now you may potentially have, your own apartment and your own bills, and you like, okay, but now who do I ask for whatever? No. So I feel like because of that, I just kind of forged my own path, and give myself permission. Like if I want to go and do something, I'm gonna do it. If I want to ask something, I'm gonna ask it. If I, whatever it is, I'm going to just explore it and make it happen. Um, because I don't want to wait. I feel like just by nature of kids, like you have to wait on the sidelines for something to happen. I'm the main character in my own life. Ain't nobody writing this story but me. So let's go out and make it happen. If I win, I win. If I fail, I've learned. But I'm not asking you to direct me into what happens next. So I feel like the permission is the thing for me.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And while it's such a simple concept, I think there are a lot of people that struggle to get to that place authentically. Like you said, like you give yourself permission to be authentic, but it's also just in general the permission because I think it's lost that transition of as a child where you do have to ask for everything and like you kind of get thrusted into adulthood where there's a lot of your early adulthood you still ask for things where it's like it takes a while to really learn and it's not just a simple thing of like yeah like I can make my own decisions like yeah you can but kind of to the point that we talked about last episode it's like you still there's still this sense of wanting to feel like you're doing the right thing. And for the
Hmm.
majority of your life, somebody else was letting you know whether you were doing the right thing or the wrong thing. So when you have to make that decision for yourself, like how strong is not so much that it's a moral thing per se, but like how strong is your compass of like, all right, like is this right? And not just right or wrong in general. Is it right for me? Is it right for
Hmm.
is it wrong for me? Is this what I truly want? Is this decision about what I truly want? Or is it about somebody else in this capacity? So I think that, yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I think that actually like brings a lot of what, we've talked about home. But getting into this checkout, what are your takeaways from this conversation and what do you want our viewers and our watchers to take away from this conversation about the inner child and transitioning into the adults that we are?
The world is loud. It is full of noise. Learn to turn down the volume and listen to yourself.
Mm.
Like analogy alert. The first time you learn to cook whatever your favorite meal is, right? Or somebody taught you how to make dinner or whatever that was. You probably followed a recipe because you didn't have the experience. You didn't know what to do. How much should this do I need? Or let me get a tablespoon of this. I'm following instructions line by line. That is what your inner child is doing. Now that you are an adult or an assumed adult, you done got a little more experience. You maybe made this meal a couple times. You say, I don't need the recipe. I don't have to follow these steps. Matter of fact, I'm gonna get a little jazzy. I'm gonna go and put some new seasoning on it. I'm gonna just see what's going on. That's now you listening to you. So yeah, when you don't have the experience, like I'm obviously talking from a place of very experienced, very confident person. I wasn't always this person. So everybody out there listening, like understand that you can't grow and evolve, but turn down the volume on the people that's around you because they may be well intended. They might not know what the hell they talking about. At the end of the day, it is noise that you have to, kind of navigate. Just listen to you. What benefits you? What do you want to do? Because if you live in your life for other people, saying like, oh, well, if I do this, what will they think? Or what will they say? Who gives a shit? Somebody's always gonna have something to say. I'm full of opinions. I give them to people all the time. I don't expect them to listen to me. This is just me processing the world. That's not me telling you how to live your life.
Yeah.
And Yvonne Orji said, if I were you, I wouldn't do it that way. But hey, that's just a perspective. You ain't gotta follow me. So turn down the noise and do whatever the fuck you want.
No, that's very real. Very wise words. A sermon, if you will. Um, this may be just a new concept to me, but character development does not stop in your teenage years and your early adult years. Like character development is literally an ongoing thing. And I know sometimes we only look at character development in the realm of characters, which are short-lived in comparison to actual life. So their character development is happening in 4 seasons or, over the course of maybe 7 years, of a specific time period. But, we all trying to live long. So you're going to have a character development arc for 40 years, brother, sister. You gonna have to get ready. But we're developing in general. Like you're developing as an individual, you're developing as a human. You're developing as a man or woman. So that character development is an ongoing process. But lean into that. And it goes back to what Donald said too. Like to really immerse yourself in that development, you got to turn down the noise because it's going to always be there. And sometimes your personal world can get loud, and that happens. Things can be going on and whatnot. But also be able to know how to. Funny enough, full circle moment what you used to do as a child to get away from everything, you can still do that as an adult to get away from everything, take care of yourself, and then come back, better than ever and, have a better approach to things or be able to face things with a clearer space because while we might have more responsibilities as adults, I think the idea of taking care of ourselves should be viewed in the same way as if we were taking care of our inner child. That character development is important. Turning down the noise is equally as important, if not more important. And yeah, y'all gotta take care of that inner child and that inner teenager, man. It's needed, it's necessary, and you'll live long, literally, if you do so. Uh so yeah, but that's all I got, man. You got any other parting words?
Nope, you got it.
But until next episode and until the next time that we check in with y'all, we will catch y'all then. Peace.
Peace.